It was around 3 p.m. in the bustling city of Lagos. The sun burned hot, and the streets buzzed with noise. Cars honked endlessly. Street hawkers shouted at passers-by, while people rushed in every direction, sweating under the heat. A girl stood at a busy junction, waiting to cross the road. She wasn't anyone special, just a girl in simple clothes, holding a small plastic bag and looking tired. She noticed an old woman struggling to cross. The woman's legs shook as she tried to move quickly, scared of the speeding cars. Without thinking, the girl walked up and gently took the old woman's arm. "Mama, let me help you cross," she said softly. "God bless you, my daughter," the old woman whispered, relieved. They moved slowly through the traffic. As they reached the other side, the girl's elbow lightly brushed the side mirror of a sleek black Mercedes-Benz parked nearby. It was barely noticeable. She didn't even realize it, but the car door swung open. A man stepped out angrily. He was tall, dressed in an expensive black suit, polished shoes, and dark sunglasses. He looked important, like someone used to getting his way. "Are you stupid?" he shouted, removing his glasses and glaring at her. The girl stopped, confused, still holding the old woman's hand. "You touched my car. Do you know how much this car costs?" he yelled, stepping closer. The girl glanced at the car, confused, and shook her head nervously. "So, I didn't even realize." Before she could finish, he raised his hand and slapped her hard across the face. People around froze. The street went quiet for a moment. Everyone turned to look. The slap echoed loudly. Her cheek turned red instantly. The plastic bag she held fell to the ground. She stood frozen, eyes wide, completely shocked. "Look at you," the man continued, pointing at her angrily. "People like you always touch things you can't afford." "Do you know who I am?" The girl wanted to speak, to explain, but no words came. She stood silently, her cheek burning, tears forming in her eyes. Some people shook their heads, looking away. Others pulled out phones, recording quietly, but no one stepped forward. No one defended her. The old woman squeezed her hand gently, whispering, "My daughter, leave him. God is watching." The girl bent down, picked up her plastic bag, and took a deep breath. Her voice was barely audible. "Mama, let's go." She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She didn't fight. She turned slowly, head lowered, feeling humiliated. The crowd watched quietly as she walked away with dignity, the old woman holding her arm tightly. The man in the suit hissed, wiped his car's mirror with a white handkerchief, and got back inside. He slammed the door and drove off like nothing happened. After the slap, she went home quietly. Her heart felt heavy, her face still burning with shame. She sat in her room, staring at the mirror, touching her cheek. It hurt, but not as much as her heart. Her name was Celine, and she had returned to Nigeria 2 weeks ago after 15 years studying in London. She wasn't a poor street girl, far from it. Her father was Chief Robert, one of the wealthiest businessmen in Lagos, owner of several large companies, and respected everywhere. But Celine didn't come home to show off wealth. She was tired of how people treated others based on money and looks. So she started a social experiment, dressing as a simple girl to see how people would treat her. Today, she got her answer. She remembered the man's angry face, his voice, his eyes filled with disgust. Tears filled her eyes again, but she wiped them away. She had promised herself not to cry for anyone. But fate had bigger plans. Across town, in a tall glass office building, the man who slapped her entered his office. His name was Paul. He was a successful young CEO running his own fashion company, Luxwear. People respected, admired, and feared him. He had money, power, and fame. But inside, he felt empty. He was cold, arrogant, and proud. He thought that was what success demanded. He didn't remember the faces he shouted at or the people he hurt. To him, they were nobodies. Sitting in his expensive leather chair, he forgot about Celine entirely. She was just another face in the crowd. His day went on. Meetings, phone calls, business decisions. The incident faded from his memory. But unknown to both, their parents were making plans that would turn their worlds upside down. 2 days later, Chief Robert called Celine into his private office at home. "My daughter," he said gently. There's something important you must know. She sat quietly. What is it, Dad? She asked. Since you were a child, we made an arrangement with another family, her father said calmly. We decided you would marry the son of my old friend, Mr. Benson. It's to strengthen our family businesses. Celine felt shocked. Mary, Dad, you never told me this. I know, Chief Robert said gently. I wanted you to finish your studies first. The time has come. Both families agreed to introduce you at a private dinner tomorrow night. Celine didn't argue. She trusted her father. If he chose this man, there must be a reason. Across town, at the same moment, Paul's parents were telling him the same thing. Paul, his father said seriously, it's time to settle down. We arranged your marriage when you were young. She's Chief Robert's daughter, from one of the richest and most respected families. Paul frowned, annoyed. Dad, you arranged this without asking me. Yes, his father replied firmly. The decision is made. You'll meet her tomorrow night. She's smart, educated abroad, and beautiful. You'll thank me later. Paul sighed, reluctantly agreeing. He had no choice but to respect his father's wishes. Neither Paul nor Celine knew they had already met, violently, shamefully, without recognizing each other. And they didn't know an even deeper secret. They weren't just betrothed strangers, but childhood friends who had once shared everything before life pulled them apart. That truth was about to crash down at the dinner table, changing their lives forever. The next evening, both families arrived at a private dinner at an expensive restaurant. The atmosphere was calm, peaceful, and elegant. Soft music played as waiters moved smoothly around the tables. No one at the dinner knew what was about to happen. Celine arrived first with her parents. She wore a beautiful dress, her hair neatly styled, and expensive jewelry. She looked like the rich, educated daughter she was, not the simple girl humiliated 2 days earlier. Minutes later, Paul walked in with his parents. He was well-dressed, confident as usual, smiling politely to hide his frustration. He didn't like the idea of marrying a woman he'd never met, but his father insisted, so he had to obey. Both families exchanged greetings and handshakes. Everyone smiled politely, and the mood was cheerful. Then the moment came. Celine, Chief Robert said with pride, this is Paul Benson, the young man we've told you about. Your husband-to-be. Celine turned slowly, smiling gently. But when their eyes met, everything froze. Her smile vanished. Her heart skipped. Her body felt weak. Standing before her was a man who had slapped her on the street. Her eyes widened in shock. Then she noticed a bracelet on his wrist, the same bracelet she had given to a childhood friend years ago. But that boy's family had no connection to hers, at least not back then. Could he have met her father through business dealings later in life? Celine looked up at Paul again. His face flashed before her memory, and then it hit her. That was her childhood friend. But how had he become so cruel? She wondered. Paul stood still. His smile faded as her face began to look oddly familiar. A memory stirred in the back of his mind, and then it clicked. No, it can't be, he thought, a chill washing over him. Silence filled the room as everyone waited for them to speak. Is everything okay? Chief Robert asked, sensing the tension. Yes, Paul said quickly, steadying his voice. We're just surprised. Celine stayed silent. Her mind spun. She felt angry, embarrassed, and betrayed by fate. Their parents discussed wedding details, unaware of the storm inside their children. Excuse me, Celine said suddenly, her voice shaking. I need some fresh air. She stepped onto the balcony. Paul followed, desperate to explain but unsure what to say. They stood quietly, city lights shining below. Celine turned to him, her eyes cold. Did you even recognize me that day? Paul felt ashamed. He tried to speak, but no words came. She continued bitterly. You slapped me in front of everyone, humiliated me, and now we're supposed to marry. Celine, he started, I'm sorry for what I did to you. I didn't know you were Chief Robert's daughter. But she cut him off. You didn't know who I was. But that shouldn't matter. You didn't need to know me to respect me. Her words hit hard. He knew she was right. The shame and guilt couldn't be undone. I'm sorry, he said quietly, looking down. I can't change what happened. Celine stared at him for a long moment. You're not the boy I used to know, she whispered painfully. Paul looked up, shocked. What do you mean, the boy you used to know? She paused, realizing her slip. With a sigh, she looked away sadly. Paul, you don't remember me, do you? Years ago, Celine and Paul were best friends in their village. They played every day under a mango tree, sharing food, secrets, and laughter. But then Celine's father sent her abroad to study. On her last day, they held hands under the tree, promising never to forget each other. Celine had given Paul her favorite bracelet as a keepsake. Over the years, distance grew. Letters stopped. Memories faded. Life changed them, turning childhood promises into distant, fragile echoes now painfully reunited. Her voice stirred something deep within him. You're Celine, from the village, he whispered, his voice trembling. Yes, she replied softly, tears in her eyes. The same Celine you slapped without even looking at her. Paul stood frozen, guilt crashing over him like a storm. His heart sank. He couldn't believe what he'd done. The girl he humiliated, the woman he was to marry, was the same person who once meant everything to him. She was the only girl who loved him when he had nothing. Now, he feared he'd lost her forever. After the reunion, Celine felt heartbroken. She couldn't stop seeing Paul's angry face, his slap, his harsh words. It hurt that the boy who once protected her had humiliated her without a thought. Paul, overwhelmed by guilt, couldn't sleep or eat. He sent apologies, flowers, and heartfelt messages, but Celine ignored them. The pain was still fresh, and the humiliation too strong. Their parents noticed the tension and began to worry the marriage might fail. Paul's mother pleaded with Celine to forgive him. Celine replied quietly, I don't recognize the boy I once loved. Feeling hopeless, Paul made a hard choice. He decided to give Celine some space. During a family gathering, he stood up and announced, Celine deserves better. If she forgives me, it must be her choice. Sadness filled the hearts of both families. The distance between them grew, and hope for their future slowly faded. Celine missed the boy who once meant everything to her, but her pride and pain kept her away. Both felt broken, unsure if their wounds could ever heal. Months passed quietly. Celine moved forward, dedicating herself to charity work and helping others. One day, she heard about a new youth shelter called the Foundation, built anonymously. Curious, she visited. She was shocked to see Paul there, working quietly, playing with kids, teaching, and smiling genuinely. He looked humbled, sincere, completely different. I built this for you, he confessed softly. Not to win you back, but to thank you. You showed me who I never want to be again. His change touched her deeply. Trust slowly returned to her heart. Weeks later, Paul visited Celine's family home respectfully. He knelt humbly, holding the bracelet she gave him as a child. Can you forgive me and let me spend my life making things right? He asked sincerely. Tears filled her eyes as memories flooded back. She smiled softly, took the bracelet, and whispered, yes. They had a simple family wedding, and both families were happy. Like their childhood promise, love returned, scars healed, and a painful slap became the start of a beautiful story they'd cherish forever. Moral of the story: treat everyone with kindness and respect, because you never know who they are or how fate might connect you. Pride can lead to regret, but humility and change can heal even the deepest wounds. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you loved it, please like, comment, and share it with your friends. Your support means everything and helps spread this heartfelt tale. Stay tuned for more stories that touch the heart.